Hi everybody, so I'm here tonight with Saren, and this is Saren's first time being introduced to the pool noodle obstacle. She hasn't seen it before. I just set it up this afternoon, so she hasn't even been in the arena with it before. And I'm just going to share with you how I would introduce an obstacle like this to a horse. So I'm going to start by making the gap in between the pool noodles a little bit wider, so that as she goes through, they're not going to scrape her side. I want it to be nice and wide. And then I'm going to ask her to go through the gap. And I'm not going to push her through the gap because I want her to spark her curiosity and I want her to think her way through. If I just push her and get her to run through it, she's not going to be thinking. She's not going to gain any confidence. I might get her to go through it, but there would be no benefit to getting her to do it in that way. I want her to take her time and think her way through it. So it bothers her a little bit when they touch the noodles, or when the rope touches the noodles. And that's alright. I'm also not going to try to prevent that, because I don't want to sneak around her. I don't want her to get in the middle and then one of them move and it really scare her. So I'm going to ask her to try, and when she's trying, I'm going to leave her alone. So if she's trying to touch them, or if she's thinking forward, I'll leave her alone. If she looks at me and asks a question like that, I'm going to encourage her to go forward, and then I leave her alone. And I'm going to let her go through it at her own speed. If she needs to back out, that's okay. I'll allow her to back out, and then I'll wait till she looks at me, and then I'll ask her to go in again. And she backs back out. Now she looks at me, asks about what she should do. I'll encourage her to go through. I'll let her think about it for a minute. She's pretty skeptical about being in tight places or anything new. She's pretty skeptical about anything new in general. And so taking our time and really working on her confidence through this obstacle is going to be key. So I'm going to ask her to turn and to go back through, again at her own pace. Good. You can see right from the start she's a little bit more confident because she knows she can get to the other side. Good. That's all right. I'm not going to save her from that. I'm not going to keep it from touching the sides because I don't want to sneak. It's just part of life. Things move. The rope might bump into a pool noodle every once in a while, and it's okay. Good. Because if I prevent things like that from happening, if I were to make sure that my rope never touches anything, that nothing ever moves behind her, then I'm going to get in trouble someday when something that I don't have control over moves behind her. So you have to be really careful not to sneak around horses like this. You gotta let them be exposed to life. Alright, she needs to go backwards, that's okay too. I'm gonna give her a minute to think. There, now she looked at me. So I always wait for the horse to ask me a question before I ask them again. So if she backs up and is kind of bracy, that I wait until she asks that question. And then I just answer it for her. Why don't you go on through? Good. She's thinking about checking it out a little bit. Me? Ask her to go through. Good. All I want is a try. There she took a nice big breath. Ask her again. Go on through. If she can't, that's okay. Or check the pool noodles out. So I want her thinking her way through. Good girl. And I'm going to ask her to try again. Good. And then I'll let her sit and think on it for a bit. Good girl. Ah, she's being so brave. I'm going to back her up. Send her back the other way through. There. And notice she went into it with much more confidence that time. She still hurried through once it started hitting the pool noodles, but she started walking in with much more confidence. And now you can also see her give us a lick and chew there. So she's starting to switch over to the thinking side of her brain where learning can happen. So she's going to start thinking about going through rather than just reacting. And that's all right. She's always welcome to back out if she needs to. I don't want her to feel trapped. The goal here is to build her confidence. And so making her feel trapped is not going to build confidence in any way. Here, a little try. Good. I'm thinking, ooh, she doesn't like when they move. Good. All I ask is that she gives it a try. And so she's kind of just standing. Here. Try. Good girl. Always back. Re-enter it. Anytime a horse is approaching something that they think is a little scary, they'll do some approach and retreat. They'll walk up to it and then they'll retreat. And they'll walk back up to it and retreat. And they do that over and over until they have the confidence to actually walk all the way up to it or past it. I think something else. I got her. Something else. Huh. Good. Yeah. Let her sit and think about it. Good girl. Yeah, I like that. Head down, thinking. Good girl. But one of my main goals in the past few months that I've had this little mare in training has been to teach her how to calm herself down and help build that self-confidence. Because she's naturally a pretty reactive horse, and that's okay. I just want her to learn how to calm herself down when she does get worried. I'm not going to be able to teach her not to be worried about things because I can't expose her to everything. But what I can do is teach her what to do when she is worried. And you can see when she got kind of bothered by whatever's out there. She still is thinking, and she came through and then wanted to put her head down. Good girl. She's learning behaviors to help calm herself down. She knows that if she puts her head down and takes a big breath, she'll feel better, instead of just blindly reacting and running away. Good girl. Yeah, I love that. Starting to think about it. Check out the different noodles. Good girl. Gonna go on through. Beautiful. What a good girl. Send her on back. We're gonna keep going back and forth through until she's consistently walking through with confidence. And then I'll scoot them together a little more. That was much better. Even with the movement on the pool noodles, she was able to walk right through. Good girl. There, very good. Better every time. Good girl. Very good. I like how she's going nice and slow and thinking her way through. Good job. And then back through. Because these are no big deal. And again, it's still the movement that gets her. Good. And once they're all the way together, where the pool noodles are touching each other, there's going to be a lot of movement as she walks through. Good girl. She's got to get used to having that movement in the pool noodles. But until she's confident with them at this distance, there's no reason to put them in closer. Back through. It's just gonna become a pattern. We walk through, and when we get to the end, we turn around, and we walk right back through. Good girl. We need to stop and think. That's okay. Good. See how she got a little worried and she lowered her head and was able to calm back down. Good girl. I love to see that. I love watching them use what they've learned. That makes for a much happier horse if when she gets worried, she thinks about lowering her head and calming down rather than running away or panicking. That's a much better response. It's much healthier and safer if she's able to handle fear in that way rather than just blowing through it. Good girl. Good. She checked out the other side a little bit. We're still getting just a little bit of hesitation. And so I don't want to scoot them closer until we get rid of that hesitation. There we go. That was the best one yet. Through. Teeny tiny bit of hesitation there, but not much. Almost there. Good. You can see how her body language and expression are starting to change. She's starting to think, oh, this is no big deal. She's walking with more purpose. We're not seeing that hesitation we were seeing a minute ago. She's just calmly walking through. She goes, this is no big deal. I just have to walk right on through. And so now I'm just going to scoot it in just a little bit. Because even a few inches can make a big difference to the horse. Because it narrows that space. And I'm going to encourage her to go on through. And see, she noticed. See that hesitation come back a little bit? A little bit more tension build up. But because we took the steps we needed to build our confidence with the other spacing, she's able to go on through. And so now we're back to having a little bit of hesitation. Too bad. And that's my goal, is to just keep playing with this in little tiny baby steps. I don't want to just throw her off the deep end and be like, okay, well, here we go. We're going to walk through it now. I just want to take little tiny baby steps that are no big deal and stay at those steps until she's 100% confident before moving on. All right. There we go. No big deal. Good. Still have some hesitation. And so there's no reason to move them closer until we get rid of this hesitation. Very good. And so at this point, I don't think she's super worried about the rope touching them. It's when one of them touches her side that she's kind of reacting to it. It's one of the reasons I love this obstacle so much, is it has many different things that it helps get them used to. It helps get them used to things rubbing up against their legs and their side. Also things moving in front of them and moving behind them. There's lots of different elements that play with this obstacle. Good girl. Good. And now we're back to her walking through it with more confidence. I'm going to do it just a few more times. Walk on through, no hesitation. And then go the other way. And through, and no hesitation. Good girl. Just stop. And I'm going to inch it just a little bit closer. And again, I'm not making big adjustments, because I don't want to throw her off the deep end. I want it to make sense and it be basically the same thing, just a tiny bit smaller. Good. She's like, uh-oh. I think they're gonna touch my sides this time. Just gonna try again. Good. Allow her to think her way through. Like, fit through this a second ago. Good. See the deep breath, her wanting to lower her head. Love seeing that. Good. That's always a good option. If you're worried, then take a deep breath, lower your head, and think about it. It's always a good option. Just going to continue. Good girl. Love seeing that. Because that can be a learned behavior. Some horses will do that naturally, but for a lot of them, it's a learned behavior. They have to learn how to calm themselves down when they're worried. Good girl. And instead of feeling the need to escape, she's using what she's learned to help calm herself down. She says, if I lower my head and take a big breath, then I feel better. And the scary thing goes away. Good girl. She's trying really hard to calm herself down. So I'm going to reward that by letting her stand there. Girl, that's so good. I'm going to encourage her to take another step. Very good. But this is how confidence, that self-confidence is built. And that's what lasts. It's not about desensitizing her to pool noodles, because other than right here and right now, that's not something she's probably going to come across very often. It's about building that self-confidence so that when she is faced with something that's scary, she knows how to handle it, whether that be pool noodles or a branch on a trail ride or a plastic bag flying past. Because I can't expose her to everything, but I can teach her how to be confident and think through situations. Good. Oh. And notice it's taking less and less time. Even though the pool noodles are getting closer and closer, it's taking her less time to go through with confidence each time, because her self-confidence is growing. She goes, I can do this. I can stay calm and think my way through this situation, no problem. She knows what to do. Good. Now I'm going to inch them in again. And now they're at where I would typically use it for a horse that knows how to do the obstacle, where the pool noodles will be scraping down both sides of her as she goes through. Ask her to walk through. It's like, it's amazing how such a tiny change makes a big deal to the horse. So I'm going to encourage her a little bit. You can do it. You're a big, brave girl. There you go. Good job. She says, no big deal. I can keep myself calm and navigate this obstacle. There you go. Good girl. Just working through some stuff there. Shaking her head. Sometimes I have to shake away that tension. Because the first place that they get tight is in their jaw and then in their neck. So sometimes when they're coming off that adrenaline and releasing the tension, shake their head. Good girl.